Let me just say good morning. Do I sound muffled? Am I okay?
You sound okay.
Okay. Let me say good morning to everyone. We are here at the George R. Brown Convention Center. This is one of our warming stations, the largest one. In fact, we've had as many as 797 people that are here. But before I talk about this specific site, what's happening here, let me just say that we are still in the midst of this winter storm that, quite frankly, started on Sunday, and now this is Wednesday. And so we're going to be in this for a couple of more days. Again, I'm going to ask people just to be mindful as they travel around the city, especially in the mornings and in the evenings. Okay, those are the most dangerous times to be traveling around in our city. And I'm going to ask you again to kind of stay off the roads in the evening times, especially late at night, going into the early mornings. That's when that's when it really freezes. And so let's not be fooled by what takes place during the day. So please stay off the roads. Two major I guess areas of concern for me still the power outages. And in the city of Houston, there's still more than 1 million people without, in the Houston region, there's still more than 1 million people without power. So just want us to be very, very careful as people work to stay warm. And I'm sure Chief Pena will amplify this message. Please be very, very careful. When you have more than 1 million people still without power, and power will not be restored fully, I would say, probably for another couple of days. And what they are doing right now is having some kind of rolling blackouts. Power may come on for a few hours, it may go off then for a few hours. And that could happen, for example, even for myself. Power came on yesterday, late afternoon, and then a few hours later, the power went off again. So I understand people's frustrations and people's anger, but we'll continue to work together to work through it. So power outages remain a major concern. The other major concern that we're working through, of course, deals with our water pressure, which is very, very low. And when it drops below 20 psi, we have to give the boiling water notice, and we have given the boil water notice, and we're working to bring up that pressure. So we're very sensitive to that, and Director Carol Haddock will speak to that in a few minutes. So there are a number of things that we're facing right now. We're still in this winter storm period. Please be patient. And what I will say, as your power is restored, and if you left your home and didn't turn that water off, please get back to your home as quickly as possible, because once your pipes were frozen, they turn that power on, then your pipes will burst. And that's one of the reasons why our pressure is low, because all across the city, all across our region, people are returning to their homes and their pipes have burst, like at the home of Sylvester Turner, your mayor. So had to quickly turn the water off. And so if you're away from your home, go back to your home, make sure you turn that water off, or be there when that power returns. Otherwise, it can literally be very damaging to you. So there are a number of things that we're facing. We'll just have to continue to be very attentive. But I want to stop now and bring up Mark Eichenbaum, who is providing leadership to our homeless initiative and has been coordinating what's happening at this particular warming center. Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. The George R. Brown Convention Center is an economic engine for our city, and today and then this week it's also an engine saving lives. And really want to thank Houston First for providing the George R. Brown Convention Center. I also want to thank This facility is being operated by the Office of Emergency Management. I really thank their leadership for stepping up and run this facility. It's being staffed by individuals, city staffers from over 10 different departments, as well as agencies from our homeless housing system, including Search Homeless Services, Coalition for the Homeless, Career and Recovery, and the Beacon. We currently have around 600 individuals here, as individuals have been transported to other locations to meet their needs. This location is full. Most of the individuals here are very, very thankful. It is a warm place with still running water. It's keeping people from being on the streets and from literally dying. This facility was filled when 12 different outreach teams were activated days before the winter storm. They canvassed the entire region, making sure that folks knew about the incoming storm and about the warming centers that were available to them. While they are here, we're taking this opportunity to get them on the path to being housed and provide other supportive services. I should note that the mayor's leadership, working with the county, the Homeless Coalition, and the Way Home homeless system, had housed 750 unsheltered homeless people in just the past 4 months. Those individuals would be filling this hall too if not for that program. But those individuals we did not have to respond to because they were housed in just the 4 months before this storm. So thank you very much, Mayor, once again, for focusing on our most vulnerable. Those here, a lot of them are homeless, but there's also many individuals here who are housed but vulnerable at the same time. And so they're serving any individual that was vulnerable here and looking that once the storm has passed, individuals will be assisted back to where they came from, as well as offered other services. So major thank you to the mayor and to the Office of Emergency Management.
Thanks, Mark. Let me say that they are here, and some of them are here with their pets. And as one lady indicated, she couldn't even go home to her own home, but she and her 3 dogs are here, and so it's good to have them here. In addition, of course, Lakewood Church has opened up their doors again. I want to thank them, Pastor Osteen, and then Mattress Bank, Jim McInvale. I want to thank him for his continuous generosity for opening up his businesses as well. Let me turn now to Chief Bunick, who is Chief of the Office of Emergency Management.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership and guidance during this critical time, and for also authorizing all city departments to utilize whatever resources that we have to keep people safe and keeping the power on. The 911 Emergency Center has seen a significant increase in the call volume. The police chief and fire chief talked about that the last couple days, that they've seen significant increases. But I'm proud to say that we're keeping up with the demand. Everybody in 911 center, call takers, police dispatchers, fire dispatchers are keeping up with the demand. So I want to thank them. The Office of Emergency Management is still coordinating with all other city departments, local, county, state, federal partners. It's really a team effort. Everybody's coming together. Most of the requests that we are receiving are the same requests that people are basically complaining about. They want power, they want water, and some of these things are beyond the control. But we're trying to service all of our partners as best we can. My last message is we still need warming centers. We're here at the George R. Brown Convention Center, which has provided support for a large number of people. If there's anybody else out in the community that can open up a warming center, even if it's for several hours, we would ask you do so. People still need to get out of the cold weather. They need places to charge up their devices so they can stay in communication. But Mayor, thanks again for your leadership.
Thank you. Two major concerns: power, electricity. The other is water. I want to call up first Director Carol Haddock of Public Works to speak about the water and the water pressure.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, thank you for the leadership through this time. I want to thank all of the men and women of Houston Public Works who have continued to work diligently throughout this. The last few days have been very challenging for us, just as they've been challenging for many of you. We have issued a boil water notice for the city's main system. This includes the majority of the city of Houston. It does not include Kingwood, and it does not include the separate area up near Willowbrook, as they're on separate systems and aren't interconnected to the main system. A boil water notice means that you should not drink the water without boiling it first. You should do this for all water that you intend to drink, brush your teeth, wash your face, or prepare your food. If you do not have the ability to boil your water, we encourage you to use bottled water. The city is working with local vendors to make sure that sufficient supplies are available. But I will also say that as we're going through these rolling blackouts, we recognize that telling you that you need to boil your water is a very harsh message to be delivered. And so if you do have those periods of time when you have power for a little while, please take that opportunity to boil the water while you have power. It will last. Once it's been boiled, it's good. And so you can boil a stock pot and you can use that even if the power goes back off. So we encourage you to do that. While these outages have been an issue citywide, they have also impacted our drinking water system. We do have backup generators at all our facilities. This is required by state law, but it's also a lesson that was learned from the citywide power outages that we experienced in Hurricane Ike back in 2008. Our water treatment plants have had backup generators or direct power the entire time, and they've remained in operation, treating safe drinking water the entire time. Our challenge has been in the distribution system. What we experienced starting yesterday around noon and degrading over the afternoon was a decrease in water pressures in a large area of the system that got below 20 psi. By yesterday evening, it became apparent to us that we were not going to be able to recover those pressures, and that is why we issued the boil water notice this morning. I'm not going to make excuses. We had generators throughout the system, and they did not start because the temperatures were too cold for the generators to start. And so we've had to manually go out and warm these generators throughout the system and get them back up and operational, even though they were fully operational on Saturday. Our team is working around the clock to get these generators all back in service and to make sure that our wells are all operational and bring everything back online. I do have good news, though. The way that we're tackling this is two ways. We are going to first increase our production and increase our pressures. And we're doing that over the course of today. We actually have our East Water Purification Plant back up to 70 psi, pushing into the system. Yesterday, it was down to about 40 psi. As the weather got very cold, we actually had to slow down. The tree feed lines had frozen. And the chemicals that we use to take the sediment out of the water did not behave the way they do on a normal day. And we had to slow those plants down. So we actually had to reduce the quantity of water and the pressure that it came out. We've increased that back to 70. And at that same plant, we pulled a module that was in construction for winter maintenance and improvements back into service yesterday afternoon, and it will be in full service by later today. That will greatly increase the pressure and the amount of water we get out of that plant. We're also bringing additional wells back into service. Probably a couple more have been put in while I've been talking today. We continue to work with our equipment failures and to get the frozen lines thawed so that we can get them back into service. One thing I want you all to know is that we are actually working our system to prioritize pressures in the Texas Medical Center and our medical complexes citywide. It is imperative that they have the ability to keep basic sanitation needs in these areas for the people that they're currently serving. So we're working very hard to prioritize those and get that out there. We're also working with TCEQ to make sure that as soon as we get the pressures back up, that we are on a path to get out of this boil water notice. But here's what we're asking each of you to do, is to reduce your demand. Use water for critical uses only. Do not run dishwashers or washing machines or use the water outside your home to wash things down. If you have a burst pipe, we're asking that you turn the water system off to that area or to your home if it's all interconnected. If you don't know how to turn your system off, we have a how-to guide online, and we also are providing this to the media so that they can get it out. And if you still have problems, please call 311. They will direct you over to my staff. We're actually taking our meter staff, our wastewater response team staff. We're taking everybody that we can redirect that is not working on the water system will be available to help homeowners get their water shut off. It's very important for us to keep the system pressures up as we do that. We're also asking if you live in an apartment complex to contact your manager first. They are responsible for the pipes within your system, and we will work with the management companies as they need help to get that taken. So if you see a break in our system, if you see water flowing out from a street, from a pipe on the side of a bridge, please call that into 311 so that we can get out there and address that immediately. Finally, I want you to know that we take this situation very, very seriously and that we will be working 24/7, Houston Public Works, our contractors, and our consultants, until we get this pressure back up. The best news is, though, that we believe that we are on a path right now to have pressures restored system-wide, enough today that most people will be able to use toilets and normal operations around their house. And by the end of the day tomorrow, we should be system-wide, full operational pressures that we normally see, a little bit lower, but normally see throughout the city, to start that path out of the boil water. Thank you.
Let me go to Chief Pena.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. The Houston Fire Department remains staffed at this moment, but the healthcare and emergency medical system is stressed. We continue to respond to the calls for service, but we are operating in a disaster mode, in essence. Over the last 24 hours, we responded to 3,300 calls for service. The majority of those, about 75% of those, have been emergency medical service calls. We have responded to an increased number of fires throughout the city. We've sent resources to about 56 structure fires over the last 2 days. This is an issue. Today we found out about the water pressures. So again, the best recommendation we have for this community is for us to do the right thing and be fire safe in our homes. I understand that people are trying to do whatever they can, especially if they've lost power, to try to remain warm in their houses. But be mindful of how we go about this. Don't use your stoves or your ovens to heat up your homes. Don't bring charcoal grills or propane heaters inside your homes. They create dangerous carbon monoxide inside your home. We've had over 90, well, today it's over 100 calls over the last 2 days for carbon monoxide poisoning calls. And sadly, we've lost 2 Houstonians to carbon monoxide. It is extremely dangerous. It doesn't take much for the carbon monoxide to build up in your homes and cause sickness and even death. If you're going to use your cars to heat up, do not do so inside your garage. Even if you leave your garage door open, that is still a hazard. It's still a hazard that you're creating for yourself and your family in those environments. Please, please, please be mindful of that, and be mindful on how we use the open fires inside our homes. Over 60 fires that we responded to in the last 2 days, and we're having issues. Our firefighters are doing all they can. They've been doing an outstanding job out there on all these calls. They're actually killing it, and my thanks go out to them for the work that they're doing. But they're working with limited capacity, especially when the water pressure drops. Okay, we must understand that those are issues that we have to overcome, and we can do our part as a community by just being fire safe and being mindful on how we use these open flames and what we use to keep our homes heated. Thank you, Mayor.
Chief Osley.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership. The Houston Police Department remains on a tactical alert with all hands on deck, working extended shifts and, quite frankly, 24-hour periods. I want to talk about 2 things that are important. So 3 things that are important. Number 1, it's going to get freezing tonight again. The temperatures are going to drop again. As you can see, it's still raining. These roadways are going to remain wet, and it appears that this dampness will not dissipate, and we will probably see freezing again tonight. So it's really important people realize that they've heated. Mayor, I've got to just say your leadership and trust you built this community is once again paying off. Since Sunday night, we've only had 1 traffic fatality in the city of Houston. When you think about the roadway conditions that we've had, the reason we've kept it down to 1 fatality is because people trusted what the mayor had to say in terms of staying home. And we should all celebrate that we have not lost any lives. But again, tonight, we're going to expect challenging roadway conditions. So please remain off the highways if at all possible. And if you come out because you need to slow down. Realize there's still traffic signals out because of the power loss across the city, and those turn into 4-way stop signs. Do not blow through those intersections. You're going to end up getting somebody hurt. Also, we've had people contacting the police department. Last night we had one from a gentleman in the nation of Peru. They're worried about their grandfather, their 90-year-old grandfather. We are doing welfare checks. We were able to find that individual, but do not call 911 unless you know someone is an immediate threat or in danger. Call 311, and that will be sent to our dispatch center for processing. So that's important not to overwhelm us. Lastly, I want to just say that tonight, we know we have people out of their homes. We know that we have a lot of people without power. But the Houston Police Department is fully operational. And as a matter of fact, our footprint is greater across the city than we normally would have because of the all-hands-on-deck approach to this natural disaster. You will be seeing police officers in marked patrol cars with their lights on for visibility, so our community knows we're out there. But you're also going to have a lot of police officers in what we call plane wrap cars and pickup trucks and SUVs and old cars. You won't tell their cops that they're cops. And they'll be looking out for anyone that may try to take advantage of our community. We will not allow people to take advantage of our community, especially in these tough times. So again, Houston, thank you. This is not our first rodeo as a community. It's not going to be our last rodeo. But I think that once again, we're showing the world that when the going gets tough, leadership in Houston gets going with our mayor and our community comes together. So we just, on behalf of the Houston Police Department, I want to thank our men and women who have been working nonstop with our partners across the city, with the fire department and everyone else, while their homes are with bursted pipes and without power and without the things that everybody else is dealing with. They're at work, and I want to thank our workforce for their commitment as well. So that's my report, Mayor, and I appreciate your leadership again.
Thank you. Dr. Hurst.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to hit on a couple of things. One is our hospitals. Our hospitals are quite full. A lot of people have unfortunately been using them as warming centers. Hospitals are not warming centers. The emergency departments are packed full. The hospitals are full. If you have a serious medical problem, you, of course, call 911. Do not call 911 for things which are not emergent. Please recognize that a hospital right now is not a good place to go to get warm. There are other warming centers around, and the hospitals are quite full. In many of the warming centers, they have electricity. So if you are somebody who is dependent on an electrically powered device and you need to get warm, you can go to those places. But be sure you bring the things that you need to charge your batteries and to run your equipment. We've had people show up with their equipment but not their batteries, and so now they don't know how they're going to get home because they didn't bring them with them to get them charged when they had power. So I'll be thinking ahead about that. Also, if you're going to go to a warming center, make sure you bring your medications with you. We don't have much medical infrastructure at these places. We certainly don't have pharmacies, so make sure you bring your medications with you if you're going to go to a warming center. Again, the hospitals are also dealing with the same issues in terms of power outages and low pressure. If you're a dialysis patient, the hospitals are not going to be able to provide you dialysis because they don't have the water pressure. We are working with the major dialysis providers in the community to get them water pressure back online, and we're hoping that we'll be able to do that shortly. Director Haddock already talked about how the water pressure may be coming up soon, hopefully by this evening and more so tomorrow. And dialysis centers hopefully will then be able to get back online with that. So if you're a dialysis patient, work with your dialysis provider and make plans to get dialyzed with them. The dialysis network in Texas actually is very well coordinated, so that if you are a patient of one particular dialysis provider, they are working together and they are caring for each other's patients as they have capacity to do it. So they will work together. You may find yourself being directed to a place for dialysis that you don't normally go to. That's okay. That's being coordinated, and we've done that before during hurricanes and so on and so forth. I want to reinforce something that Chief Pena brought up about carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide poisoning, we've had more carbon monoxide poisonings here recently than I can remember any other time in my career. This is a odorless, tasteless gas. Early symptoms include headache and fatigue and nausea, and people have lots of reasons to have headaches right now and to be exhausted and to be nauseated. So they may not recognize that they're getting the early symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning. That's then followed by confusion and altered mental status. So if you are with someone and you're using a barbecue, whether it's indoors or even outdoors, and somebody starts getting confused, you need to get them to fresh air immediately. We've had several cases of people that have been outdoors using barbecues to stay warm in an outdoor environment and have got carbon monoxide poisoning. So the chief pointed out that it's dangerous indoors. It can also be dangerous outdoors if the setting is exactly the right way, so that where you're sitting isn't ventilated very well. And then finally, last thing about the boil water notice that Director Haddock pointed out, there are opportunities for commercial establishments to still function during a boil water notice. but they have to follow all the same issues that would be used anywhere else. So if you are a commercial food provider or restaurant, you need to discard the ice that was in, that your automatic ice makers may have made. You need to discard that. You cannot use that. It may have contaminated water in it. You can only serve bottled water. All right? Only serve bottled water. And as the Director Haddock pointed out, if you do have power and you can boil water, you can use that and you can store it to be used later. But you cannot use anything that came from the faucet during the boiled water notice, even if it came through one of the machines. And if you have questions, you can contact the Houston Health Department, our Consumer Health Service. The email address is CHS, an abbreviation for Consumer Health Service, CHS@HoustonTX.gov, or you can call 832-393-5100. Again, this is for commercial establishments. This isn't for residential help. This is for our folks that work with restaurants and commercial food providers to provide them support and how they can continue to function during the boil water notice. And again, finally, just everyone, this is look out for your neighbors. We know who our neighbors are most at risk. Go by, knock on the door, see how they're doing. If you have some support that you can offer them, please do that. Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. First. Again, asking people to be conservative on their power usage, power restored. If you have power, be conservative on your power usage. And we're asking people to be conservative on the use of water. Okay, as we work to deal with both of these issues, to build up the pressure. Certainly want to thank Director Haddock and the entire Public Works team for what they're doing there. The goal is to get this pressure up as quickly as possible, and I think we'll start to see some noticeable improvement later on today, and then hopefully normalizing things sometime tomorrow. So those are the two things. I've already been in contact, for example, with several of our grocers about increasing their supply for bottled water for people who are going to be needing that. And so they're working on that end as well. We'll stop now and take any of us, or take any questions that you may have.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I'm asking questions for the pool today, so
Sure.
got quite a few.
Okay.
And these are dealing with the water issue, of course. Are there any plans for mass distribution of water, given that so many people are without it? If so, when and where? And do you plan to perhaps ask for state or federal assistance, bringing in the National Guard to help with distributing bottled water for free, not having people go to the stores to buy it?
Well, we've asked the stores to increase their supply, and I've talked to presidents of, for example, of HEB as well as Kroger's. We'll supply water, for example. We're working to make sure we're supplying water to our hospitals. We're doing that. But in terms of having just mass water distribution sites, that is not planned right now at this time.
Why do you feel that's not necessary right now?
Well, a lot just depends on the availability. A lot depends on availability. For those who have for example, our warming centers, we're providing water here. But in terms of planning mass water distribution sites, I'm not saying that's not our plan right now.
And have you requested any aid from the state or federal government?
We've had conversations, for example, with TDM in terms of providing water tanks, water trucks, and for what I'm told, and where's Chief Buick? He can speak to that, but there's been limited, if no, availability. Chief Buick, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so the process usually is the city requests resources through the county that goes to the state. We submitted a STAR request to the state for additional water, like the mayor said, bottled water, water tanks. It's my understanding that the state has almost 300 current requests that they can't fill. And it's also my understanding, I was told that the state has been in contact with FEMA to try and get some federal resources in.
So people, don't have money, don't have transportation to get to stores. Stores aren't open very long to get to the water and may not have water on the shelves. What should people do?
Well, number one, if they do have power, it's boiling the water. That's number one. Number two, we are looking in different locations for water. And to the extent, that's what I'm saying, to the extent there's water available that's made available to us, we'll make that water available. But we are doing everything we can to find it. The other thing is to increase our water pressure to get the system back up and operating. as quickly as possible, and then we are looking everywhere for water. We also will be working again with the grocers to the extent we can get water from them that we can make available. We will do that as well, in addition to people going into the stores. But if we can get additional supply of water, we'll do that. Now, I do know Public Works does have some water that's available. Depending on what's available, then we'll make that available. But we're doing an inventory of our system to know just what we have. That's why I'm not just saying we're going to do it, because we need to make an inventory to see just how much we have stored up right now from previous storms that we can make available. If we do have it, we will make it available at no cost to anyone.
And Mayor, you've been recommending or asking people to not let their faucets drip. Is that still kind of...
That is still the case. We are saying do not run your water, let them drip, to try to prevent your pipes from bursting. That works against everybody in terms of trying to raise up the pressure. The other thing is that all across the city, as power has been restored, people's pipes are bursting all over the city. That's not helping at all as well.
And Mayor, we've heard from people who said they followed your advice, they saw your tweets, they heard you in the news conferences, the last couple of days saying don't drip your pipes. They did that, and now they have roofs falling in because they said the pipes burst because they said they followed your advice. What do you say to those people?
Well, that's not the case. I mean, the reality is that there are homes that have been without any power for several days. If you don't have any power, you're not even warming your homes at all. So the houses are just standing there with no power. Pipes are going to freeze, just like mine did. My pipes froze. And when the power came back on yesterday afternoon, my pipes burst. It's happening to everyone. This is a storm with no respect of persons. And if the fact that you didn't allow your pipes to leak or you ran doesn't necessarily mean that that was the cause of the fact that your pipes burst. We have had unprecedented cold periods, and we've gone several days with no power. So houses literally have been sitting there with no power in them, and the pipes froze. It's unfortunate. It's frustrating, but it happens.
Several questions about vaccines. So, one, will the weather affect next week's opening of the FEMA vaccine site at Energy?
At this point, we are still on schedule to open on the 22nd. Anything different, Dr. Burson? Yeah. Right now, the mass distribution vaccine site is scheduled to open on February 22nd, and we are moving forward. And we will probably return to testing and vaccines safely, I would say probably Friday. Thursday is now problematic, but testing and vaccine shots will probably start again on Friday, and then the mass FEMA site will open on schedule as on the 22nd, unless I'm told otherwise.
Have any shipments of vaccine that the city was expecting been delayed because of the storm?
This week's shipments has been delayed.
So how long is the backlog, do you think?
It's just for this week, and the fact that we have not been able to distribute vaccine shots, starting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, tomorrow. We did get a shipment, for example, last week for this week, but because there has not been the ability to provide shots in the arms, the shipment for this that would have come this week has been delayed.
And so what should people do who had vaccines scheduled for the last 2 days, and when can they reschedule?
Those appointments will be rescheduled. So if you had appointments, for example, for any time this week, your appointments will be rescheduled probably for next week. I do know that Director Williams and his staff will be working even extra overtime in order to catch up from this week.
Just had a quick question. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, and it is important if you don't know how to shut off your water, please contact us, because that's very important. Literally, you can have a lot of damage in your home in a matter of minutes if you don't quickly turn off that water.
Just wanted to go back to the water pressure issue real fast.
Sure.
Maybe just a better question for Director Haddock. Is there a way to know how much of the water pressure problem is a result of people dripping their faucets versus a lack of power or damaged city equipment?
I would say at this time we're focused on getting the pressure back, more so than focused on assigning the blame to each different area. We know that all of them need to be addressed in order for us to get the pressure back to where it needs to be. I think it's a combination, and I don't think it's going to be any one thing that ultimately is a single blame for it. I think it's a combination of the facilities that were impacted by the freezing weather and also the pipes that are bursting. It's a combination.
You also said tomorrow might be sort of when we start to get back to normal water pressure. How do you decide when to lift the boil water notice, and do you have a time frame of when that might happen?
So the state has a very specific process for lifting a boil water notice. Once we have the system back stable in operating pressures that are above 35 psi system-wide, at that point we can implement a sampling plan to take samples throughout the system that we have to then let them sit in the laboratory for 24 hours to make sure that no bacteria grows in them. And once we get the all clear on those, then the state will allow us to rescind the boil water notice. So it's very much controlled by the state in getting out of it, but it is a very, very straightforward process to get there.
It's pretty much 24 hours after you get to that point of normalcy, and then you do your testing, and then 24 hours later, if things are clear, they give you the all clear sign.
Just two more cool questions.
Sure.
Perhaps this is for the mayor, for Dr. First, but what are the options for people needing transportation to outpatient health care? Is 311 up and running and able to give residents transportation info for healthcare services?
Say that one more time, please.
What are the options for people needing transportation to outpatient healthcare treatment? Is 311 up and running and able to give residents transportation information for healthcare services?
Yeah, so for most of the outpatient clinics that I'm aware of, they are not open. They have the same problems. They have power issues, they've got water issues, and so as far as I know, most of them are not open. So if you have an appointment, try and call ahead. You'll probably get a recording telling you that they're not open. In terms of transportation, no, there is no additional thing. No, Metro has been helping us out in some specific situations, working with HPD and our comm center in very unique, you can't make this stuff up kind of situations. Metro's been able to help us out with that. But like I said before, so the hospitals are not a good place to go right now because they're overwhelmed, and they're not a good place to go for primary care anyways. So we're just going to have to wait until those clinics start opening up, and hopefully when that happens, the transportation grid will be back online as well.
And Chief Acevedo, I have a question for you from Univision. You can answer in Spanish. You did sort of address this earlier in English, but they wanted to know what is HPD doing to protect the property of people who left to seek shelter.
Sí, es importante que la comunidad sepa, número uno, que el Departamento Policíaco, la Policía de Houston, estamos en completo operaciones de emergencia. Van a ver que los habitantes que dejaron su casa, su hogar, su negocio, tenemos oficiales que están patrullando en uniforme en las patrullas y también patrullando vestido de paisano. No van a ver que es policía. Así que no vamos a permitir que tengan la ventaja de nuestra comunidad. Es importante que la comunidad sepa que sí estamos aquí y los delincuentes que sepan que lo vamos a llevar a la cuenta. Así que no se deje. Y si ve algo sospechoso, por favor, reporto. And in English, again, we are fully operational. If you see any suspicious behavior, if you see someone in your neighborhood, casing a neighborhood, casing a business, call 911. I promise you we will be there very quickly. Proud to say that throughout this operational period, our priority zero, which is our number one priority calls, we have not had them backing up. We are completely up to speed. And completely caught up on our hotshot emergency calls. So call us. We will be there very quickly. Thank you.
Let me back up just a little because we have put a call out for additional trucks for water. And there are about, I think, 13 trucks that we are expecting. And that water on those trucks will be offered at no cost.
Okay, so trucks are coming with bottled water?
Yes.
And but you don't know when you're going to distribute them yet?
As soon as possible, I would say, but as soon as, so let me back up. I wanted to correct that.
Mayor, one last question.
Sure.
You said you're trying to direct water to the hospitals as much as you can. What have you heard from the CEOs or from the Texas Medical Center about the challenges they're facing, and how concerned are you about the hospitals?
Yeah. Some of the hospitals are facing what they call internal challenges They may have had pipes that burst themselves. Okay, so they're facing some internal challenges. Others are needing water, for example, for their chillers. And we are pulling water from different sources to try to provide to them. In fact, one of the hospitals, LBJ, the fire department provided water for them for their chillers. And then we are pulling water, for example, from the Parks and Rec department. You know, they have the water that they use to during the summertime to irrigate. We're pulling those trucks, and we'll make that water available for the hospitals for their chillers. And then I do know Public Works, in addition, talking to some of the CEOs to determine whether or not they need water for their chillers, or whether or not they need water like for drinking water, cafeteria, because you don't want to contaminate each one that contaminates the other. So as much as possible, we're all working collectively. And then at the same time, we have all reached out to some of the major grocers to see whether or not they have water that can also be supportive of the hospitals. Those are two major concerns, the hospitals and then the fire hydrants. Those are the two major concerns for me as relates to water. So we're all working together just like we've done before, pulling resources from wherever they exist and then sharing those resources. And based on the information I'm receiving, you know, it's this 24-hour time period. The water pressure will start to improve later on today. Tomorrow it should be much, much better. And then once we get out of this boil waters notice, it'll be better for everybody. So it's this 24-hour time period that we'll really focus on. That's why we're asking people to conserve on their water usage and do everything you can to help us to build up this pressure as soon as possible.
Mayor, Carol may have addressed this, but we had additional media questions. People bathe or shower without being in the water. And I don't know if you addressed that.
Just don't drink it.
So the answer is just don't drink it. So don't drink the water while you're in the shower. But we do encourage you, if you're washing your hands to prepare food, we encourage you to use the boiled water or the bottled water. But for showering and things like that, flushing your toilets, absolutely fine to use the water from the system while we're under a boil water notice.
Did they get it? All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.